Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Jai Gopanande. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Janarandana. Yamuna Tira Vanachahare. Yamuna Tira Vanachahare. Yamuna Tira Vanachahare. Yamuna Tira Vanachahare. Jaya Radha Gopina Radha Gopina श्री हरि नाम संकीर्तन यज्ञ की जय, श्रीमद् भागवत गीता की जय, श्री प्रभुपाद की जय, श्री गुरु वृंद की जय, समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय। All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Move it back.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Before we begin, can we please ask everyone to move right forward, because we have people standing all the way out towards the doorway. So please come forward as much as you can and allow the others to fill in the spaces. All the way forward. Thank you.
not on the Facebook, it's on my it's under the Sydney, not Sydney, Australia. There's a separate channel, Sydney.
Hare Krishna. One other thing. Before we begin, could we also please ask everyone to please turn your phones to silent mode?
So it's
Thank you.
Live.
And kids also.
That's difficult.
It's called Sydney. And we have another channel which is called Sydney, Australia. Okay, just
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
It looks like I never left Sydney. As if I was always here. And I remember we had a program in this house with Anandamoy Prabhu with Bhagavad Gita crash course.
Yes.
That was a couple of years ago, 3 years ago.
No, 2012.
Oh, 12, okay.
6 years ago.
Time is flying. And yeah, I heard that Japataka Maharaj was doing initiation here. Yeah. How many disciples we have here?
For Guru Maharaj?
Yeah, Japataka Swami's disciples we have here.
Here, myself, Sri Guru, and then yeah, 2 here.
Okay, alright. Okay, so I'm very glad to be back to Sydney, and we're going to speak about the practical applications of Bhagavad Gita in life. And of course this is very big subject matter, but we'll try to cover as much as we can. First, I wanted to share something which I found to be quite interesting recently. That we hear in Srila Prabhupada's books, or we read in Prabhupada's books, that the world was not always like we see it now, and at some point Bharatvarsha, which of course now is the name for India, original name for India, that the whole planet was Bharatvarsha, and Vaishnava kings, Raja Rishis, were ruling the whole planet, and everybody was worshipping Vishnu, Krishna, Supreme Lord, in the different incarnations. And the more I'm traveling around the world, the more I discover evidences of that. And maybe some of you were wondering what kind of bag this is, who is on this bag. And this, according to the modern science, and this is an interesting thing that acknowledged by modern science, that this is the first object of religious worship on planet Earth, 40,000 years old, and this sculpture is officially called Lion Man. If you look up at the net, you will immediately come across him. He's really famous. He has huge Wikipedia page dedicated to him. And he was found in southwest Germany, near Stuttgart. You know, Stuttgart is the place where BMW, Mercedes and Porsche, all these cars come from. And interesting, he was found in a cave, and obviously this cave was used for, you know, instead of the temple, and he was obviously object of worship because, you know, they found some necklaces and other ornaments next to him. And these caves are situated near the modern German town, Narsingen. And many, you know, scientists trying to figure out why in the ancient time people worshipped Lion Man. Who is the Lion Man? And of course, other people are telling them, come on, Lion Man was always worshipped in India. Narasimha, right? So, this bag is actually from British Museum, because he was giving darshan in British Museum. Now he's back to his home place in Germany. And this is the tag, official tag from the museum. We'll just read what it says, just for your curiosity. The 40,000-year-old Lion Man sculpture from Stadel Cave in southwest Germany is the oldest known evidence of religious belief in the world. Made from mammoth ivory, it depicts a creature that does not exist, but the head and shoulders of a lion and the lower body of a man. It's not known if the Lion Man was a deity, a spiritual experience, a being from a creation story, or an avatar used to negotiate with the forces of nature. He took at least 400 hours to make at a time in the late Ice Age, when survival was hard and may reflect a communal effort to reshape the human world by dealing with invisible spirits of nature. So that's the official description. So, Singade Bhagavan Ki Jai. It's interesting. The first deity on earth. So, if anyone wants to have a closer look, you're welcome. But I would like to get it back. And so, yeah, there are many evidences like that, that Krishna consciousness and Vedic culture was widespread all over the planet. And that's why I was thinking that for you, because all of you here, practically speaking, I might be the only exception, maybe there are only one or two people here, except myself, that all of you are Bharatiya descent, and so that's why you should be proud to belong to the most ancient culture and the most ancient civilization on the earth. And actually, Vedic culture and Vedic civilization gives knowledge and practices which, as Srila Prabhupada says, can solve all the problems in the world, because Bhakti tradition we belong to and we practice is the one which is meant to help us develop love of God, divine love. And if you think about it, every single problem people have is just because they are lacking love, right? So and that's why, you know, if Krishna consciousness is established, then every single problem of the world will be solved. And so somehow we are chosen by the Lord to take this mission forward and help the whole world to live happily in Krishna consciousness. And Bhagavad Gita is, of course, the book which helps us to understand the science behind becoming Krishna conscious. And it has many layers of knowledge and realization. And actually there is one verse which we can read, which glorifies the wisdom of Bhagavad Gita. So after offering our respects to the spiritual masters, Vaishnavas and the Supreme Lord, we'll read this verse. Om Gyantimirandasya Nandana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Vishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaya Dadati Svakanantikam Vanchukalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mahaprema Prabhuti Nirmalakshate Yadam Sukurushay Muktai Ganan Sadasasasas Makalam Krishishtamagavan Vacham Samay Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya 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 Idam Gyanam Upasritya Mama Santarvimagata Sargepi Napajayante Pralayana Vyatanti Cha. This is chapter 14, the three modes of material nature, text number 2. By becoming fixed in this knowledge, one can attain to the transcendental nature like my own. Thus established, one is not born at the time of creation or disturbed at the time of dissolution. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. After acquiring perfect transcendental knowledge, one acquires a quality with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, becoming free from the repetition of birth and death. One does not, however, lose his identity as an individual soul. It's understood from Vedic literature that the liberated souls who have reached the transcendental planets of the spiritual sky always look to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, being engaged in his transcendental loving service. So even after liberation, the devotees do not lose their individual identities. Generally, in the material world, whatever knowledge we get is contaminated by the three modes of material nature. Knowledge which is not contaminated by the three modes of nature is called transcendental knowledge. As soon as one is situated in that transcendental knowledge, he is on the same platform as the Supreme Person. Those who have no knowledge of the spiritual sky hold that after being freed from the material activities of the material form, the spiritual identity becomes formless without any variegatedness. However, just as there is material variegatedness in this world, in the spiritual world there is also variegatedness. Those in ignorance of this think that spiritual existence is opposed to material variety. But actually, in the spiritual sky, one attains a spiritual form. There are spiritual activities, and the spiritual situation is called devotional life. That atmosphere is said to be uncontaminated, and there one is equal in quality with the Supreme Lord. To obtain such knowledge, one must develop all the spiritual qualities. One who thus develops these spiritual qualities is not affected either by the creation or by the destruction of the material world. Idam jnanam upashritya mama sankaryam agata sabe sarge pino pajayante kalayana vyatanti cha. By becoming fixed in this knowledge, one can attain to the transcendental nature like my own. Thus established, one is not born at the time of creation or disturbed at the time of dissolution. So this is very important knowledge, and it is very practical, applicable in all respects, and something everybody is striving for. It's very interesting that we have leadership training school in Mayapur, and it is meant for professional devotees who are interested of establishing their own social spiritual projects for reaching out to greater population, and in this way helping to achieve the first purpose of ISKCON, which is real unity and peace in the world by spiritual knowledge and spiritual practices, and helping the society to solve their problems. As Prabhupada says, check the imbalance of values in life. And so we have the best devotee students taking courses there, and after the graduation they establish very large-scale projects, either reaching out to millions of people or involving actually hundreds of millions of dollars projects. And of course the faculty members are very professional, and one of the faculty members, also devotee, he is a regional director of Harvard Business School. It's interesting that Harvard business courses are very, very expensive, if anyone ever came across. It's like he came and for 3 days he was teaching us professional Harvard business materials and exercises and everything. And one devotee who was taking the training, he is a medical doctor from Nepal, and he got so excited. He said, I want to continue studying with this devotee. How can I get further education of Harvard business courses? And I told him, I'll give the email of our teacher. You can discuss it with him. So, and I was added carbon copy to this letter. And then this teacher, he said, no problem if you want to take further Harvard business courses. We have a basic course which is lasting 2 months, and the cost of the course is 80,000 American dollars. So probably it's not even every day, and 2 months is only 60 days, so probably it's close to $2,000 every day worth. But somehow we made an arrangement. He came and he was teaching us for free. And he shared really interesting things. And one of them was that what are the most important qualities which employees appreciate in the leaders in the corporate world. And they took a survey of thousands of employees in most powerful corporations. And of course there is a long list of the qualities of the leaders, but interestingly enough, the 2 qualities which came on the top of the list were humility and compassion. So which shows that spiritual values are imbibed in everyone. It doesn't even matter whether people believe in God or not, right? Because we're spiritual beings, and so the spiritual qualities are the most appreciated. And so this is what Bhagavad Gita is teaching. Of course, Bhakti Yoga is meant to help us develop those qualities, and as Srila Prabhupada explains here, by associating with the Supreme Lord, we also develop divine qualities. And therefore, it is really important to see Bhagavad Gita as a manual for human life rather than just philosophical book, something to discuss. No, it is something to apply in life. And as we were mentioning during the crash course, if anyone remembers, that was 6 years ago. But if anyone studies Bhakti Shastri, and I know that in Sydney many devotees do that, how many of you are taking Bhakti Shastri? Okay, quite a few. And so we know that Bhagavad Gita has three basic divisions. 18 chapters of Bhagavad Gita are divided into three main parts, right? Three types of yoga. And what is the first? What is the overall subject of the first 6 chapters? Karma yoga. Yes, it means yoga of action. And I'm calling it yoga of success, because if you act for the Supreme Lord, you cannot lose, right? And then middle 6 chapters are Bhakti Yoga, dedicated to Bhakti Yoga, Yoga of Divine Love, and the last 6 chapters, Jnana Yoga, Yoga of Knowledge, but this is very practical knowledge, so that's why I call it Yoga of Wisdom, right? And so Bhagavad Gita is helping us to learn all these subjects, and we start with Karma Yoga, and Karma Yoga is really, if it is applied properly, you will become successful. It's 100% guaranteed. And because it is yoga, it is following the major pattern of yoga, and there are 8 steps in yoga, right? That's why it's called Ashtanga Yoga. And these 8 steps are Yama Niyama, Asana Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharan, Dhyana, Samadhi. And actually Bhagavad Gita is not just teaching us yoga as physical exercises, but it is yoga of life, right? Because Krishna was not teaching Arjuna to, do the headstand at the battlefield of Kurukshetra or sit in lotus and go into meditation, something like that. So he was expected to act in the world, right? Act in his professional capacity. And so, first, Bhagavad Gita starts with conflict, right? So Arjuna is facing external conflict. He is supposed to fight on the battlefield, but then there is internal conflict also, because he knows that all these people are his teachers, relatives, and he's supposed to be killing them. So, and he does not know how to resolve this conflict. And so Krishna is helping him to resolve this conflict. And therefore the first lesson of Bhagavad Gita is how to live without conflicts, life without conflicts. Even though this is virtually impossible to have no conflicts in life, but if you are Krishna conscious, then even though you will be facing with so many conflicts, and conflicts are guaranteed, that it says if you have no problems, most probably you're already dead, right? Because as long as you live, you're bound to have one problem or the other. But it's not the problem, but it is our reaction to the problem, right, which actually matters. And so if you are Krishna conscious, then you will see no problem in life, because your perception will be that everything is under Krishna's control, and Krishna knows what he's doing, and he's always doing everything for our benefit, right? So this is the first, and we should say the foremost lesson of Bhagavad Gita, how to live your life without any problems, right? Without any conflicts. Even though problems and conflicts will always be there, you cannot stop it. And actually Bhagavad Gita kind of highlights one subject and then comes back to it. Krishna comes back to the same subject matter again, again, and again. And in terms of life without conflicts, really important thing is to be able to overcome duality, because duality is something which is always causing a lot of trouble, right? Heat, cold, fame, infamy, good, bad, etc., etc. Sukha, dukkha, sukhe, dukkhe, samekrita, jaya, jaya. So, all these things, we have to learn to overcome the duality. So this is how we can live without conflict. This is at least, one of the principles which is very important to learn practically. And how do we overcome duality? How do we make good and bad irrelevant in our lives? As Krishna says, Dukkesha nududhyamana sukesha vigataspriha in text 56 in chapter 2. How not to be affected by misery and not to be elated in happiness. And of course, not to be affected in misery, that's very useful, right? Because if you're in trouble and then if you lose your composure, things might get even worse, right? I'm sure you had that experience in life. But it's also important not to get too excited when there is happiness, right? For example, for the fish, it's really important not to get too excited when the fish is seeing the worm on the hook, right? So, and there are many such hooks Maya puts around us, and if we get too excited, we'll get hooked up, right? She will offer you a really good deal, but there is a fine print at the bottom. You're too lazy to read. And this is where all the problems are explained. And so, if you get too excited about good things in life, you can suffer even more. Anyone have this experience? Getting too excited and then caught up. So, this is a very practical lesson for us in life. And so, how do we eliminate the influence of good and bad in our lives? Did we ever spoke about it? Jitendra is kind of attending, I think, all the classes. How do we eliminate, how do we neutralize good and bad? If anyone knows, Jitendra will know. Can you remember?
I don't remember.
Okay. Alright, so that's really important to practice, and I want all of you to practice, and it's very, very helpful in life. This is the formula. Srila Prabhupada doesn't give that formula in this kind of condensed version, but he explains that in a number of places in his books in more elaborate form. But I kind of made it into a short formula to help you to remember that and meditate on it. And so this is the way how to get free from the influence of good and bad. We need to see good in bad and bad in good, right? Or, problems and happiness, right? These are two opposite sides. So we really need to see problems in happiness and happiness in problems, right? Because if you see problems in happiness, will the happiness remain happiness? No. And if we see happiness in problems, will the problems remain? No. they will also vanish. So this is the way how not to get distracted in life, right? Because all this good and bad, they really distract us from pursuing our main goal, which is Krishna and serving Krishna and always acting the way Krishna wants us. And so this is the first and foremost important element, life without conflicts. And of course there are many other ingredients to that. We never spoke about it. Seeing good and bad and good. We've spoken about it, okay. And so this is yama, right? This is yama literally, I mean, in yoga it means restrictions, right? But we know that literally yama means what? Death. So anything which kills us, right? Everything which destroys our lives. So to successfully practice yoga, including bhakti yoga, we have to become free from these things, right? The things which destroy our lives, for example. This is the reason why we follow four good principles, because we don't want to destroy ourselves, right? Like there is a Russian joke that one man is smoking and the other one is saying that, why are you smoking? Don't you know that smoking is a slow death? And that man responds, I'm not rushing anywhere. I'm not in rush. So yeah, people know that they destroy their lives, but because they don't have higher taste, they cannot stop, right? But this is what we have in Krishna consciousness, higher taste by which we can overcome all the troubles. And so the second step in yoga is niyama, right? And niyama means positive alternative or higher taste. And so by developing positive alternative, we can very easily overcome all the negative influences in life. And that's why second chapter is dedicated to, of course, many topics, but the prominent topic of the second chapter is that we're not the body, we're spirit souls. And we have practices which help us, which are helping us to realize our spiritual nature, right? And the most important practice which help us to realize our spiritual nature is called sadhu sangha, because sadhu means a saintly or spiritual person, and sangha means association. And so in the association of like-minded people who are serious about their spiritual association, we naturally advance spiritually, right? So sadhu sangha is really important foundation. That's why devotees really like to come together. Satam prasanga mama virya samnido, as Krishna says, and discuss topics connected to me, to my amazing activities. And I think you've noticed that yourself, that when you are in sadhu sangha, it's really easy to think of Krishna and be Krishna conscious. And when you are away from sadhu sangha, it's very difficult, right? Anyone notice that? So, and it's really important, and this is niyama, right? It's really important for us to capitalize on this and increase and improve on our sadhu sangha, right? And sadhu sangha is naturally encouraging us in our spiritual lives, but we should try to encourage and support each other even more. And it is very interesting. I am kind of involved in interfaith circles, and I'm also visiting other spiritual places and other sanghas, other gatherings of spiritual people, and associating with different spiritual leaders, because my aim is to contribute as much as I can to the first purpose of ISKCON. And Srila Prabhupada says very interesting things in different places in his books. For example, I came recently across one very amazing quote from the sixth chapter, sixth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 10, text 6. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says very interesting thing. He says, if one is advanced in knowledge, he must always be prepared to sacrifice anything for a better cause. At the present moment, the entire world is in a dangerous position under the spell of a godless civilization. And then listen carefully what he says. The Krishna consciousness movement needs many exalted, learned persons who will sacrifice their lives to revive God consciousness throughout the world. We therefore invite all men and women advanced in knowledge to join the Krishna consciousness movement and sacrifice their lives for the great cause of reviving the God consciousness of human society. So it's very interesting. In two consecutive sentences, Srila Prabhupada makes very clear-cut distinction between Krishna consciousness and God consciousness. That we cannot expect everyone to start worshipping Krishna, because people are on different levels, they belong to different traditions, and they worshipping God in so many different forms. And Srila Prabhupada said it doesn't matter, as long as one's spiritual practices are helping one to develop their relationship with God and love to God. It doesn't matter what they practice. And so it really is important that we understand that God is one, Krishna, but Bahute Vishvatomukam. He appears in many different forms to different people, but He's still the same one Supreme Lord. And we should encourage any sincere spiritual practitioners to become serious about their practices and advance. And actually it's very interesting that we can even learn things from other spiritual practitioners. For example, Srila Prabhupada once said that we should learn how to structure our society from Catholics, etc. And so I came across one very interesting church, Christian church, and they follow what is called New Thought Christianity, which is extremely open-minded Christian denomination, and they accept everything, karma, reincarnation, they respect Krishna, glorify Krishna. In the church I'm visiting, that every single year, one day they dedicate to Krishna. This is Krishna's day in their church, and they invite devotees do kirtan, and devotees preach, and they have, for their Sunday feast, they have 15,000 people coming. It's a mega church. And so devotees have really good time preaching to all these people, and all these people are very open-minded and very positively disposed towards Krishna consciousness, even though they are Christians. In Los Angeles. And then they give donations, and devotees get these donations and use them for Krishna. So like very, very friendly spiritual group. And one thing I've kind of noticed, it's like very, very interesting people, is the way they encourage each other and support each other spiritually. And I invited well, I didn't actually invite, I shared with one very old and experienced Prabhupada disciple who have done tons of services for Srila Prabhupada personally and his movement, and done a lot for preaching, joined this societies from '68, and many of you would indirectly know him. He produced this video series, Memories of Srila Prabhupada, interviewing so many people, and his name is Siddhanta. And so I just told him about this church. He said, this sounds really interesting. I want to visit that church and see what are they doing. And then he went for their services. And just the greeting, just the beginning, impressed him so much that he said he couldn't check tears. And I was thinking, this is for someone who had so much spiritual experiences, that's quite remarkable. And my conclusion was that they really focus on perfecting this art of saintly association and supporting and encouraging each other. And actually, instead of just telling you about it, I wanted you to have a little experience of the same thing. We kind of simulate the experience for you, but I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Everyone enjoyed it, whoever went through it. And you'll be greeting each other in pairs, and I'll request you to sit in front of each other, looking at each other, just repeating few words after me at the same time. But the trick is that instead of just mechanically saying these words, try to say it with feelings, right? Try to say it from the heart, and then the better you do that, the deeper experience you'll get. That's guaranteed. All right? Everyone ready? Okay. Look at each other, not at me, and repeat after me. Welcome to our Sadhu Sangha. I recognize you. I see who you really are. You are the spiritual image. In the very likeness of Krishna. A unique emanation of beauty, love, and divine intelligence. Indeed, you are one, of a kind wonderful, one of a kind magnificent, brilliant, unfolding genius. And today, we will get to celebrate your very existence. We are celebrating your infinite potential. We appreciate you. And we thank Krishna for you. Welcome to Sadhu Sangha. Haribo. All right. Thank you. Was that interesting? And anyone wanted to share any realizations, any thoughts in connection to that exercise? Yes.
Maharaja recently had a similar video. One church pastor explaining the meaning of Namaste, which means I salute the person in you, as in I acknowledge you as a spirit soul, and I bow down to. So I had the same feeling when I was saying the same thing here.
Okay. Yes. Quite interesting. Yes.
I feel like if we say this often enough to devotees, we start to say them as devotees.
Okay. Yes. If we say this often enough, you will see. We'll start seeing that in devotees. Very good. Anyone else? Yes.
Just to repeat that, the first time when you are saying that, you are trying to imitate the same words, but if you keep on doing it, you will experience the real joy. Then you are
Okay. But just repeating these words make you joyful. Are these words true? Yes?
Yes.
Why are they true? Huh?
Krishna is everywhere.
Yeah, because we are spirit soul, we are part and parcel of Krishna, and just by recognizing that in each other, we feel automatically happy and joyful, right? And it's inspiring us and it's inspiring others as well. So this is how we can help each other to develop our spiritual potential, by encouraging and by supporting and by recognizing, right? And devotees have many amazing qualities that we don't have to just mechanically repeat things. We can genuinely appreciate devotees' wonderful spiritual qualities, because devotees have many. And so, yeah. Then next level in yoga is asana, and asana means posture, but more important is what is our position in life. And the third chapter is saying that the real position of this world is yagya, that this whole world is maintained because of yagya. And so real human life starts with yagya. And yagya means any activity, sacrifice, right? When we sacrifice our personal interests for the sake of serving the Supreme Lord. And yeah, our approach to yagi is Sankirtan yagi, right? That congregational glorification of the Supreme Lord, and Supreme Lord can be glorified by words, but it's even more important to glorify Him with our deeds, with our activities. And so the only way to do that is by cooperation with other devotees, right? And that's why Srila Prabhupada said that your love towards me will be shown by how you will cooperate with each other. Many of you heard of this statement, right? But anyone knows the circumstances in which Srila Prabhupada told that phrase?
I think one devotee came to Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, I love you, and then they wanted to do things for him, and he said, don't just reply, you have to show me what they
Yeah, that one young devotee, when Prabhupada was already almost leaving his body, and he came and he said, Srila Prabhupada, I would love to, if possible, to exchange your old age to my youth and take your disease and give you my health. And Prabhupada said, this is very nice, but your real love will be shown by how much you will be able to cooperate with each other. Which in a way indicates that for some devotees it is easier to die than cooperate with other devotees. Because false ego is so strong, right? But this is yagya. Yagya means we have to move aside our selfish interests and work, cooperate with other devotees to for the sake of pleasing the Supreme Lord. Right? And fourth stage of yoga is pranayama. Pranayama means breathing exercise, but prana means life, right? And there is a difference between living and existing. And there is one principle which is highlighted in Bhagavad Gita very emphatically, and that is Shriyan Swadharma Viganan Paradharma Svanishita. Krishna says that in the 3rd chapter, but then in the 4th chapter he illustrates that this means that it's better to imperfectly follow your nature, act according to your nature, than perfectly imitate somebody else. So that means that all of us have certain nature and certain abilities and certain qualities, and we have to dedicate that fully to the service of the Lord, and this is how we can achieve perfection. And this really, interestingly enough, is one of the key topics of education and training in many institutions, in many universities around the world, like Harvard. They're really focusing on that you can call it predestiny, right? That you have to be you, and that is the guarantee of your success in life. That you have to learn how to be unaffected by, circumstances and other people, and realize your potential. Because each of us are unique. That is really important, and each of us is meant to make a unique contribution. That actually, in professional circles, they say that the 4 L's are the most important in life, and Srila Prabhupada is the best example of those. And first L is to live, and by living we mean something which is different from just existing, right? Because many people, they don't really live, they just exist, right? Like there is a joke in Germany that he died when he was 20, but he was buried when he was 80, right? So many people, they don't really live. They lose interest in life and they just go through the motions. They live on autopilot, but this is not life. This is existing, right? But we're talking about living your life to the full extent. So this is really important. And second is learning, and we know that Brahmana means one who is learning whole life, right? We're always meant to learn new things, and it's recommended that we better learn ourselves and not wait until life will start teaching us lessons, because it might be too hard. And third L is to love, and of course this is the topmost achievement in human life, to develop love of God, which includes love for the world, love for other living entities, right? And fourth, and the topmost L, is leaving legacy behind, right? And so Srila Prabhupada was a perfect example of all the 4 L's, because he lived his life to the full capacity. He was always learning things, very interesting. Like even when he came to the Western world in America, in Butler, he was giving some classes, but then later he said, I'm just observing how the Americans are taking to Krishna consciousness. Do they have any interest or not? So he was teaching, but he was also learning about Americans, you know, their thinking, their lifestyle, and their capacity for Krishna consciousness. And once he realized, okay, there is a potential there, he went to New York and then he started his mission. So he was learning his whole life also. Because Brahman is meant to teach, and to teach you have to learn also. I was very intrigued how quickly Srila Prabhupada adopted to Fahrenheit's, measurements of temperature. It's amazing, you know, like whole life getting used to Celsius, and then, you know, he just switched to Fahrenheit as if it was really a natural thing for him. So he learned so many things in a quick time. And love. One disciple was asking Srila Prabhupada, how come that everybody loves you so much? Prabhupada said, it's very simple, because I love everyone. So love is reciprocal. If you love people, they love you too. And because Srila Prabhupada saw everyone as parts and parcels of Krishna, one who loves Krishna will love Krishna's parts and parcels as well. And living legacy. So many legacies Srila Prabhupada left behind, right? So many books, so many temples, so many deities, and the most important thing, so many wonderful disciples, right? Like gems in Prabhupada's, necklace. Amazing personalities, and they continue and increase on his legacy, right? When he left this planet, there were 108 temples in ISKCON, and now there are almost 800 officially recognized, but there are many unofficial temples as well. So we can probably conclude that there are way over 1,000 in reality. Temples, Krishna temples, those who dedicate their life to serving Prabhupada. And so this is really important, not just for one saintly personality, but Prabhupada was very, very clear. He said, I want all of you to be like me. And so he is the founder Acharya, and Acharya is the one who is teaching by his examples. And we should also think, what kind of legacy will I leave behind? What, like one man says, who will cry when you die? What will be left behind after you are gone, right? How the people will benefit from your life after your life is over? That's really, really important question. And we just been to New Govardhan, and then we've conducted training course, 3 days training course on discovering your personal mission, your kind of self-discovery, understanding your predestiny and how to act according to that. And this is really important and extremely liberating as well. And of course, if someone is really serious about it, we have spiritual entrepreneurial training course, empowerment course in Mayapur. We were mentioning 2 months, and then after that we can do amazing things, because it's not just theoretical knowledge, but we're also connecting our graduates to the people who are doing things according to their interests, and providing them with information and contacts and everything required for that. And so this is chapter 4, and then 5th stage, like the pratyahara means that you withdraw your senses, right? Sense withdrawal, and dharana means concentration. And so, what should we focus on? And chapter 5 is really interesting chapter because it's called Sannyasa Karma Yoga. So, and this sounds like an oxymoron, sannyasa karma, because you know, karma means you act in the world and sannyas means you renounce the world, right? But chapter 5 is really important. It helps us to understand how can we act in the world being completely renounced. And it's really important to understand what should be our goal, because of course our ultimate goal is to be focused on Krishna, but Bhagavad Gita says we should be focused on Krishna not in a passive but in active way. And there is one word, the key word which can help us to understand how can we do that, and that word is success or victory. And so, because the whole Bhagavad Gita is meant for that Krishna wanted Arjuna to fight and gain victory. That in little later in chapter 11, Krishna tells Arjuna very clearly, Tasmat Kamutishta Yasholabasva Chitva Shatrum Bhungshvarajam Samritam Maivate Nihita Purvamava Nimitta Matra Bhavasa Visachin. That therefore, Arjuna, wake up or get up and become famous. Yasholabasva. Jitva Shatrun, conquer your enemies, and Bhungshvarajam Samridam, and enjoy flourishing kingdom. Mayavata Nihitam Purvamava, that I already made the arrangements for you, and the only thing you need is Nimitta Matra Bhava Savisachim, become an instrument in my hands, right? And so, normally, this sounds like a contradiction that spiritual people, they don't want to deal with anything material, fame, position, wealth, all these things, you know, spiritualists, they renounce. But Krishna tells Arjuna, you have to get all these things. You have to gain wealth, you have to become famous, and you have to have powerful position. You are very spiritual, this is very good. You don't need it, okay, but I need these things. And again, Prabhupada showed really good example, right? That one time, someone brought Srila Prabhupada a picture of a yogi, impersonalist yogi, and someone was giving him like a tray full of money, and he was kind of, you know, had this expression of disgust on the face, and he was saying, you know, like, don't show me this dirty money, give it to my secretary or somebody. And Prabhupada laughed and he said, I think someone should take a picture of me with such a tray, embracing it with both hands, right? And then he was saying, all the money of the world should be given to me, because I'm the only one who knows how to use it properly. And so this is how we should be. That instead of artificially trying to renounce, and of course, like, I can try to do that being sannyasi, but, you know, being grihasthas, you should not be even trying to do that. But rather, you should be achieving success in your professional careers and in your lives in all respects, but not for yourself, but for Krishna, right? Because wealth you can use for Krishna. If you have a lot of money, you can do a lot of good things for Krishna. And if you have high position, you can use that position for Krishna. And if you're famous, you can do even more for Krishna, like George Harrison, right? One man, how much he did for Krishna. And so this is really important. What you should focus your life on success. And it's really important for parents that you encourage your children to be as ambitious as possible and achieve maximum results in the world, because by achieving all these results, they can be used for Krishna, right? And it's really interesting what Maharaj Yudhishthira told Krishna, that Krishna, I want you to help me to fulfill, I have 3 desires. And Krishna said, yeah, sure. You are my pure devotee, you must have very pure spiritual desires. Probably you want like causeless devotional service, remembering me, something like that. Maharaj Yudhishthira said, no, I have different desires. One desire, I want to be very wealthy. I want to be the wealthiest man on earth. And second desire, I want to be the most powerful man on earth. And third desire, I want to be the most famous man on earth. And Krishna was a little confused. He said, how come? I was thinking you're a pure devotee, you don't have any desires, because these are material desires. But Maharaj Yudhishthira said, yes, I don't really want these things for myself. But I'm so tired of people saying that, look at these Hare Krishnas. They're all losers, they cannot do anything in life, right? Completely useless. So therefore, I wanted to achieve maximum success in this life, and then people would say, look at him, this is Krishna's devotee, but he achieved maximum, right? He is so perfect in all respects, and so this is really important for us also to follow in the footsteps of Maharaj Yudhishthira and Srila Prabhupada. After all, Srila Prabhupada left this world factually being multi-billionaire. And he established ISKCON and incorporated ISKCON, so factually ISKCON is spiritual corporation. And there are many other things which help us to understand that we should never be sentimental, right, in our lives. And we should be full on focused on all the achievements we can ever get in life, to use them for Krishna. Okay? And then chapter 6 is connected to the last 2 steps in yoga, which are dhyana and samadhi, right? And so chapter 6 is called Dhyana Yoga. And dhyana means meditation, but the main subject of meditation, or object of meditation, of chapter 6 is Paramatma, Super Soul. And so, yeah, to be guided by the Lord in the heart, and practically we get trained in that by being guided by external representation of Super Soul, who is the externally representing Super Soul, the spiritual master. So by getting trained under the guidance of spiritual master, we learn to be guided by Super Soul in the heart. And so these are all very, very practical aspects of Bhagavad Gita. And of course, that, actually this is just a kind of very brief overview. We're doing a very elaborate training course dedicated to all these subjects, and then there are 2 more sections of Bhagavad Gita and 12 more chapters which are dedicated to developing our relationships with Krishna and with others. And this is Bhakti Yoga, and Karma Yoga is, Jnana Yoga, the last 6 chapters. Basically the topic is dealing with false ego, becoming free from false ego, because there have been so many people in the world who have achieved so many things materially and spiritually, but they lost it all because of the influence of false ego. So it's really important not just achieve good results, but also to never lose those results. And so that's why Bhagavad Gita is providing complete guidance for our lives, both material and spiritual. Actually, there is no such a discrimination for devotees, because if devotee is dedicating everything in Krishna's service, everything becomes spiritual. Alright, so I hope it was interesting enough and you've learned something new. Yes? So, if you have any questions. Yes.
Just on the point where you mentioned looking the formula where you're looking for happiness, in the happiness you have to look for the problem, and in the problem you have to look for the happiness. At the same time, reflecting the second point in the later, it's saying we should also look for success, so that we can dedicate that to Krishna. To me, if I put my simple context in that and say look on both sides, one is contradicting to each other, meaning I'm looking in this context more like an outsider from a material perspective, whereas this one is more materialistic. I'm not sure whether I'm explaining properly, but
Yeah, trying to understand. So it's like looking for problems and happiness and problems.
it's more you're not living that moment if you do that kind of, because you're looking for the negative things in the positive things and the positive things in the negative
Yes.
things. You're not living exactly that moment, or you're
Yes.
not relishing that moment. Whereas on this side, we are supposed to work on it and then pass on that to Krishna back. So it's kind of, how do I understand the contradiction here?
How to achieve success if we see problems in happiness. Yeah, that we're talking about not being caught by Maya, because it's really important to be focused on the goal, and goal is to achieve things for Krishna, right? But then, of course, seeing, advantages and problems. We can take Srila Prabhupada's example for everything, because Srila Prabhupada, is such an amazing model. So he saw advantages and problems, right? That just one episode, and Prabhupada demonstrated both, seeing advantages and problems and seeing problems and advantages. So when he started in New York, then one influential man, I think his surname was Price, Mr. Price or somebody.
Yep.
And he started offering the devotees some kind of special deal that they can purchase a building for the temple, and he said the building is $100-something thousand, but if you pay $5,000, I'll arrange everything for you, etc. And the devotees were very impressed. They were thinking, this very powerful man, he wants to help us. So they introduced him to Srila Prabhupada, and Prabhupada quoted that Bengali proverb that Ati Bhakti Chor Laksham. Right? Many of you understand that, right? Too much devotion is the first sign of a thief. And so, actually, Srila Prabhupada could see it through that this is he's the cheater, and he has his own interests in that. But devotees trusted him, and Prabhupada warned them, don't trust him. But devotees still did, and they signed the contract, and he cheated them, right? And they called Prabhupada. They said, Prabhupada, we're very sorry, he cheated us. And Prabhupada said, don't worry, I'll come. And Prabhupada came, and he was fighting with him in the court. and he won the case, and he had to return $5,000 and cancel the contract. But then Prabhupada paid few $100 for the court procedures. And the disciples were saying, "Sure, Prabhupada, we're very sorry because of our foolishness. We, made you to go through so much trouble and you've lost your money." And Prabhupada said, "Don't worry. If you fight with the tiger, you don't count scratches." Right? So, meaning that Srila Prabhupada saw benefit in this trouble because he saw it as learning experience for his inexperienced disciples, right? First, he was not quite upset about it. And when this man was offering a lot of benefit, Prabhupada immediately saw trouble in that benefit, right? So this is the example of how it works. And because Prabhupada was perfectly capable of seeing benefits and trouble and troubles and benefits, he was never distracted by either side, and he could go directly and achieve one goal after another. So in order to go straight, it's really important that you do not get deviated left or right. Is it helping to understand? Yeah, okay, good. All right? Good.
It was
Yes.
a nice class, thank you. You explained about leaving a legacy. Leaving a legacy?
Yeah.
Can you please elaborate that? We learned that we are all dasana, like we are all bhaktas.
Yes.
So do you want us to create another ISKCON movement and leave a legacy? How do we actually leave a legacy before we leave ISKCON?
How do we leave a legacy? Well, we see how Prabhupada left so many legacies behind, right? And so, it's really important that we make a contribution to the movement which is bigger than us, right? And maybe at some point we'll discuss one quite interesting article written by one Christian preacher or leader, and he says that the people who will really contribute to the mission of spreading God consciousness are spiritual entrepreneurs. And so he's advocating spiritual entrepreneurship. And that article was shared by one of our spiritual masters, Maharadj, and I found it really interesting because all the 12 points are related to Srila Prabhupada. So yes, when we are under training, we can do very simple and humble things, but we are meant to get trained and do something substantial, right? That one thing is that it's only you who is serving and benefiting, who is serving Krishna and benefiting from that. But the other thing is, from your service, so many other people are benefited, right? And so Prabhupada was promoting this chasing the rhinos, right? Concept. And so, yeah, think big. He was also saying that my only problem was I could never think small, right? I was always thinking big. And so if we follow in Prabhupada's footsteps, this is first point, that think big. And, if you think big, even if you fail in trying to do something big, it's going to be better than success of someone who is thinking small, right? So, and I always reflect on this very famous verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 2.3.10, which Prabhupada quoted a lot, Akama Sarva Kamava, Moksha Kamo Dharati, Tivrena Bhakti Yogina Jada Purusham Param, which says it doesn't really matter if you are free from desires, or you have all types of desires, or you desire liberation, as long as you are udaradhi, have broad consciousness, and we can understand that Krishna consciousness means broad consciousness, right? Because Krishna is not seeing things in a narrow way, he's seeing everything. And then with that Tivrena Bhakti Yogina, you can be engaged in very intense and very focused devotional service and achieve full perfection. So it's really important for us to understand that broad consciousness, big thinking, is practically speaking a synonymous to Krishna consciousness, right? And so if we really train in Krishna consciousness, we'll start thinking big, and we'll start thinking of not only how can I serve Krishna and benefit from that myself, but how can I make sure that so many other people will benefit from that, right? So, and if you do something to make sure that even after your departure from this world, people will continue be benefiting from your service, that's the best thing, and this is what we call legacy. How you do that? That's according to your nature, to your capacity. But this is the best thing, and we should try our best. You know, my formula is only if you do the best, Krishna will do the rest. Right? So I hope it clarifies. Yeah? Very good. So we are not ambitious for ourselves. For ourselves, Srila Prabhupada says we should be happy with, you know, enough to keep the soul in the body, right? But for Krishna, we want the whole world. For Krishna, we want maximum results, and we should really focus on that. And again, Srila Prabhupada showed that example, right? That he gained so much, but he kept for himself. Just very simple lifestyle. Same lifestyle he had in Vrindavan, same lifestyle he continued through and through. But for Krishna, the whole world. That's really important. Alright. Hare Krishna. So, what do we do? Little kirtan, okay. Short kirtan, then we have Giriraj Prasadam here. After kirtan, we can have Giriraj Darshan as well. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna And if anyone's interested in